Okay. So, aside from church and being stationed in Tennessee in America, where are we at biblically?
Proverbs.
Proverbs 21. But as always, we'll recap Proverbs 20. Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. So this is saying that alcohol is bad. Don't try to change that. Don't let that get you twisted. Even some religions and some other sections of Christianity drink and stuff. We just talked about that. But Proverbs 20 says it's a mocker, it's raging, and don't be deceived by it because you're not wise if you are. The fear of the king is as a roaring of a lion. Whoso provoketh him to anger sinneth against his own soul. Why would you not provoke a king to anger? Because he has the power to have you killed and your family killed and all of that. It's not wise to go making powerful people mad at you. It is an honor for a man to cease from strife, but every fool will be meddling. The sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold. Therefore shall he beg in the harvest and have nothing. We'll talk about the sluggard again in 21, but I know a lot of us have probably felt that. Like, well, it's too cold or it's too rainy to do what I really need to do. And a lot of things can wait until tomorrow. I'm not saying go out and wash your car if it's raining, because it wouldn't really make a lot of sense. But if it comes to food, especially back in the day, if you didn't sow or you didn't go plant your seeds or plow, you didn't have food for that year, and then you have to go beg from everybody else. So if you decided, well, it's too cold, I'd rather just go beg this year, this is saying you're going to have nothing, and you shouldn't do that. Counsel in the heart of a man is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out. Most men will proclaim everyone his own goodness, but a faithful man who can find? So a lot of people are like, are you a good person? Who's that Australian guy? So I was like, are you a good person? That's his intro.
Ray Comfort, New Zealand.
Ray Comfort, or New Zealand, yeah. Same thing. I'm just kidding, you Australians. But, yeah, he would always go out and be like, are you a good person? And everybody would either say yes or no. And either way, he had his pitch lined up for that. Like, are you a good person? Well, have you ever lied? Have you ever sinned? Well, then how do you say you're a good person? And his point is that none of us are really a good person. And that's kind of the point it's making here. Most men will proclaim his own goodness, but a faithful man who can find? They are really hard to find. Jesus' biblical faith. Even when he was with his apostles and disciples, he said, when I come back, will I find faith? He called them, O ye of little faith, a lot. The just man walketh in his integrity. His children are blessed after him. A king that sitteth in the throne of judgment scattereth away all evil with his eyes. Who can say, I have made my heart clean, I am pure from sin? So we've all sinned. I'm not saying that we should stay in sin or sin every day, but anybody who comes and says, I've never sinned a day in my life, watch out for that person. It's either they're deceived or they're trying to deceive you. Divers weights and divers measures, both of them are alike abomination unto the Lord. Even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure and whether it be right. So even children, I don't know about babies, but even little kids, when you start knowing, Ezra especially, you are definitely of age for that. Every child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure and whether it be right. The hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord hath made even both of them. Love not sleep, lest thou come to poverty. Open thine eyes, and thou shalt be satisfied with bread. If you want things, you got to go out and do it. You got to go out and get it. If you want anything, now I'm not saying this is a vanity type thing, but if you want to go to school, you have to get up and go do it. If you want money from work, you have to get up and go do it. If you want anything for the church, for your family, for your friends, you have to get up and go to work to actually get that done. It is not saith the buyer, but when he has gone away his way, then he boasteth. So who here sells stuff online or sells stuff anyway, other than one that I know of? So who here has ever even sold anything? That should be everybody, right? So, all right, I'll tell myself a little bit. Who here is cards still a thing? Like y'all play Pokemon cards, Dragon Ball Z, Yu-Gi-Oh, all that? Probably boys. I don't think girls do that. It's more of a very young boy thing. Well, when we were in school, that was very big. Like every boy, popular or not, you played Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Dragon Ball Z, and all that. Well, some cards were worth a lot of money. Some cards were a lot better than other ones. And if you were, cool and good at haggling, so to speak, you could trade some not very good cards to get other people's really good cards. A lot of kids didn't even really know how good the cards were that they had. So we would always be getting in trouble for it. Oh, this kid said you ripped him off. By the teacher was like, look, we made a fair trade. I don't know what you're talking about. Then the teacher would have to get involved, parents and all that all the time. Yada, yada. So one time I traded this kid, it was a pretty good card, but he had what was a very expensive card. And I knew immediately I wasn't going to keep it. I was going to go sell it. Like, as soon as I got this trade, I'm having mom take me to the mall and selling this card for money because it's worth like $100-something. And then I'm buying a bunch of other stuff, and it's too late. He can't get it back when he goes and tells on me once he realizes this is what happened. That is bad. That is unbiblical to say that because I played it down. I'm like, yeah, that card's pretty good. It would go really good with the rest of my cards that I have in my style. So I traded him some good stuff for it. He was very happy. Later, he found out how much it was worth. And he was like, dude, you ripped me off really bad. I'm like, I've already sold it. It's already gone. Sorry. But that's bad. That is not biblical. I should not have done that. I feel bad and I am sorry for that. But that's what it's saying. Beware of those people and don't do it when you're selling it. Like, when you're buying something, I'll be like, well, it's got a rip here, tear there. It's not worth that much. I'll give you $5 for it. And then you go sell it for $400. That's bad when you lie about it. If somebody's like, look, $5, and you're just like, okay. And then you get it and go, that's okay. That's a little bit on the seller thing. But when you say it is not, say it the buyer. But when he's gone away, he boasted like, ha, rip that guy off. That's when it starts to become a sin. There is gold and a multitude of rubies, but the lips of knowledge are a precious jewel. Take his garment that is surety for a stranger, and take a pledge of him for a strange woman. Bread of deceit is sweet to a man, but afterwards his mouth shall be filled with gravel. And again, I looked again, you can't find a picture of a mouth filled with gravel anywhere. Thought about getting Ezra and taking one ourselves, but it'd be a little mean. But I did find a woman who eats sand for health. Y'all ladies know that? That's the way to stay young and beautiful, just like her. Just eating sand every day. Yeah. Every purpose is established by counsel, and with good advice make war. He that goeth about as a talebearer revealeth secrets, therefore meddle not with him that flattereth with the lips. Whoso curseth his father or his mother, his lamp shall be put out in obscure darkness. An inheritance may be gotten hastily at the beginning, but the end thereof shall not be blessed. Say not thou, I will recompense evil, but wait on the Lord, and he shall save thee. So if somebody does bad to you, or evil, you're not the one that's supposed to go and get your judgment. You're not the one that's supposed to go get even with them. That's God's job to do that for you. And on a good note, while I know it's very hard sometimes to, if they're right there and you could just easily go take care of business, you'd feel better after it a little bit, but you don't. A lot of times God's punishment for that person is way better than what you could do to that. So you will get justified, because God doesn't like injustice. It's actually an abomination to him, as we talked about with the weights. And a false balance is not good. There we go. Man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? It is a snare to a man who devoureth that which is holy, and after vows to make inquiry. You know what inquiry is?
Trying to check something out.
Yeah, so when you inquire about it, it means like the exchange, so what you're getting for giving. To make right, even. You owe somebody money, you make inquiry back to them until they get it. This guy, for example, he took some money from the church and they caught him on camera. Obviously, this wasn't the first time he'd ever done this, or they wouldn't have had trap cameras set up and everything. They knew somebody was stealing from them. So, for example, if you're in charge of keeping the money for a church, and you're like, well, I need about $40, so I'm just going to take it from the church, but next week I'll put back 60, and it will all be good. Or inquire what we said. Well, the next week comes, and you don't put in 60. You don't take any, but you don't have the 60 to put in. So you're like, I guess I'll get it next week. But then a couple weeks roll by, and now you need $40 again, so you're like, well, I'll take it this time, but man, I'm racking up a big get God back bill. I'm going to have to pay him like $200 this time. It rolls and it rolls and it rolls, and eventually you're just stealing from the church. You get caught, you get in a lot of trouble. So you know how snare traps work? I know James does, but anybody else know what a snare is? It's the thing that goes around the neck when they run through it. It doesn't instantly snap tight and break a neck or anything. It just tightens. And the more the animal fights, or the whatever fights, the tighter and tighter it gets until they suffocate themselves. That's how they work. They get tighter, but they don't get looser. So the more you pull, tighter and tighter and tighter, and then it locks. So that's what this is talking about here. Don't fall into that. A wise king scattereth the wicked and bringeth the will over them. The spirit of man is the candle of the Lord, searching all the inward parts of the belly. Mercy and truth preserve the king, and his throne is upholden by mercy. What does Jesus say a lot about mercy? He is the truth, right? Jesus said, I'm the truth, light, and the way. What does he say about mercy? A lot. And it says in the Old Testament too, a lot. It'll even say it in the next chapter, kind of. He quotes this back to the Pharisees. He says, I would have mercy and not what? Sacrifice, yes. So mercy and truth preserve the king, not his sacrifices that he gives to God and all of that. So even in the Old Testament, even in Proverbs, they kind of knew, like, well, we do make sacrifices, but that's not really the most important thing we would do. Else we would have a whole chapter of the Bible on how to give good sacrifices versus how to live that says more about mercy and truth than it does sacrifices. So remember that. Mercy and truth is better than your sacrifices made for God. The glory of the young men is their strength, and the beauty of old men is the gray head. The blueness of a wound cleanseth away evil, so do stripes the inward parts of the belly. You learn from getting beat, and you learn from your mistakes. If somebody's working a saw and they cut their finger off, I'll guarantee they're way more safe on a saw for the rest of their life, right? So the blueness of a wound cleanseth away evil. Some people had a big mouth and they would go around, talking smack, I guess you could say. And then they would get in a fight and get beat to death, and they didn't talk smack that much after that. Imagine that. So you learn from your injuries, we'll say here. The Proverbs says. All right, that was Proverbs 20. Let's move on to 21. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water. He turneth it wheresoever he will. He said, being a king. But it would be different to be a king. They lived way different lives than we do right now. So we might have the same comforts that they wish they would have had back then. So think like a TV, a refrigerator, and all this stuff. If a king from back then was alive today, he would be like, I'll trade my whole kingdom for that TV and that refrigerator. That's awesome. That's like magic. That's sorcery. But, they had a little bit harder of a life when we're talking about it back then. So, the kings have the power to make ultimate decisions. When they declare war, they can either kill a lot of people, or one decision can save a lot of people. They have the power to affect, with one decision, a whole lot of people. I can make a lot of decisions, really nobody's affected by the decisions that I make. But a king, not so much. And that is why we went through so much that Solomon says, a king is of God, a king better be just, or it's an abomination to the Lord, and, king better be right with God is what it's saying. It's a divine job given to you. And every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord pondereth the hearts. So God's going to know what you're thinking regardless of what you're doing in that sense. To do justice and judgment is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. And that's kind of what I was talking about before. Being fair, being right in everything you do is better than giving things up for God, or than back then actually like killing the animals and sacrificing everything for it. I'm not saying like giving up sin for God. A lot of people's like, God, I'll quit drinking. No, you shouldn't be drinking anyway. That's not what I'm talking about here. So think more of fasting. Fasting is very important, but if you fast and then go back and you start doing injustice and bad judgment, God would rather you get that right first before you go to do the fast. Fast is like nitrous to your Christianity, not gas. Does that make sense from a racing aspect? A high look and a proud heart and the plowing of the wicked is sin. The thoughts of the diligent tend only to plenteousness, but of everyone that is hasty only to want. Think about things before you do them. The getting of treasures by a lying tongue is a vanity tossed to and fro of them that seek death. You keep lying and you keep ripping people off, that's a pretty quick way to die. If I went and somehow finagled Jeff Bezos out of billions of dollars, I bet I'd be dead before next Sunday. I guarantee I would die of natural causes at the ripe age of 30. So, this seems to be how all that works. The robbery of the wicked shall destroy them because they refuse to do judgment. The way of man is forward and strange, but as for the pure, his work is right. And it is better to dwell in the corner of a housetop than with a brawling woman in a wide house. He must have been having trouble with his wives during these past few chapters. You know, all 300, 500, however many he had of them. Concubines and all that. Here we have a whole village of rooftop husbands just dwelling, chilling together, having fun. The soul of the wicked desireth evil. His neighbor findeth no favor in his eyes. When the scorner is punished, the simple is made wise. When the wise is instructed, he receiveth knowledge. So I did a bad example of explaining this a few weeks ago. Smite a scorner, and the simple will beware. And reprove one that hath understanding, and he will understand knowledge. It is the same exact thing, just different words. When the scorner is punished, the simple is made wise. If they see Billy getting beat for stealing, they're not going to steal because they've seen what happened to Billy. The wise people are already a little bit above this, so if you beat them up for doing something wrong, they're like, well, that doesn't make sense. I was just trying something and it didn't work. But if you reprove one that has understanding, you're like, no, this is how you do it, or this is why what you did was wrong. And they're like, oh, that's how you get to them, as opposed to some people you got to beat, some people it pays more to actually teach and be patient with. I think it's okay ever in the Bible to hit somebody. Like biblically, you have backup to if somebody does something like really wrong. Can you punch them? This says smite a scorner. Jesus said turn the other cheek, but that was talking about you getting hit, not you hitting somebody. So, and all the time it says justice, recompensing the Lord and all that. Like let's say we're just walking, me and Eric, and somebody comes out of nowhere and just like decks Eric. Am I allowed to punch that guy? Like, whoa, what's happening? I don't know. I've been thinking about that a lot this week for certain reasons, or for the past couple of days. Not that I want to hit anybody, but it's just like, man, I don't know. I'm Old Testament, New Testament's getting me messed up on if I'm allowed to punch people or not. But the righteous man wisely considereth the house of the wicked, but God overthroweth the wicked for their wickedness. The righteous man wisely considereth the house of the wicked. What do you think that means? The wise man considereth the house of the wicked. There's some big, scary, powerful houses of the wicked out there, right? So anything I'm going to do, you should take into account the enemy houses that are going to be there to oppose you as well. But also, a righteous man wisely considereth the house of the wicked, in that you know it's wicked. So like, okay, that house is of the wicked, I'm going to avoid it, because you know that that's going to be overthrown because of their wickedness by God later on. So you don't want to have any part in that. This one I can go like 4 different directions on. That's why I was asking what you guys thought about it. But consider your enemy, or consider what you don't want to be your friend in the house of the wicked. Because either way, you know if they're the house of the wicked, God's going to have judgment over them. They're going to be overthrown. Whoso stoppeth his ears at the cry of the poor, he also shall cry himself, but shall not be heard. A gift in secret pacifieth anger, and a reward in the bosom strong wrath. It is joy to the just to do judgment, but destruction shall be to the workers of iniquity. So whoso stoppeth his ears at the cry of the poor? Why just walk past the poor when you can exploit them for your magazine and make money and all that? Do you think that's the same thing? Do you think that's worse? I kind of think it's worse than if you just ignore a poor person as opposed to taking pictures of them and putting them on a magazine. The magazine's probably like, give our charity a bunch of money and we'll go feed these poor people, and you give them $500, they give them like a quarter or something. That's how a lot of them work. You're paying a lot of rich people's taxes when you give these donations to Sarah McLachlan's dogs and all of that. So, but a gift in secret pacifieth anger. If you make somebody mad, you should give them a present. You should make up for it, is what it's saying. And a reward in the bosom, strong wrath. You should give them a good present if you did something really bad. And it is joy to the just to do judgment, but destruction shall be to the workers of iniquity. And we know that that is even in the end, the ultimate rejection. You workers of iniquity, depart from me, I never knew you. Then you're going to have everlasting destruction from that. The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. He that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man. He that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich. The wicked shall be a ransom for the righteous, and the transgressor for the upright. So he that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man. He that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich. What does that mean? When's the new iPhone coming out? How many of y'all are going to rush to update your iPhone 11X2 to an iPhone 12.1? Not really a lot of people here, but there are people that camp outside of the Microsoft store, or not Microsoft, Microsoft Apple stores, we'll say, to get those phones. That's silly, and those people don't have a lot of money, yet they'll save up every paycheck until the next phone comes out just to afford it. So what this is saying, you see the people that flaunt all their money and all of that, all these celebrities, a lot of times they'll get rich, they'll get a lot of money and a lot of jewelry and a lot of that, and then as soon as the income's turned off, now what are they left with? They sell everything, they end up broke, they have to do weird commercials. If you ever see celebrities doing like some weird commercials on TV, it's usually because they're in some financial something and they just need a quick little boost to get back up. So, for this example, just use the prodigal son. He got his inheritance and he went out and what? Did a lot of riotous living and blew it because he loved pleasures. He liked the wines, the oils, all that. And he's like, well, dang it. And now I had to go back with nothing, poor and ashamed. So, rich people don't go out and blow their money on huge mega mansions and all that. Super rich people don't. That's why you see like Facebook guy Mark Zuckerberg, every time they catch paparazzi pictures of him, he's got like a Walmart t-shirt on, like some cheap thrift store flip-flops. And they're like, here's a billionaire driving around in like a normal car with those shoes, because he doesn't care about that. He's going to take all that money and make billions more by other investments and all of that. I'm not saying this dude's a good guy and you should look up to him for that, but super rich people don't care about the cars. That's your rappers and stuff. And I hate to burst your bubble, but a lot of those rappers' cars you see in their videos and jewelry, it's not theirs. They did it just for the video. It's called leasing. So, it is better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman. Dang, these wives are on fire in this letter. He said it's better to go out in the woods alone than to be in the house with an angry woman like these guys here. There's a treasure to be desired and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up. Prodigal son we just talked about. He that followeth after righteousness and mercy findeth life, righteousness, and honor. So this one right here. He that followeth after righteousness and mercy, what does he find? Righteousness and mercy? No, he finds life, righteousness, and honor. So he did look for the bare minimum of certain things and found way more than what he was even looking for, just because he was looking for the right things. If that makes sense. So I think Eric said it last Sunday, if you follow God, put God first, everything else will fall into line, so you don't have to worry about everything else. You worry about one thing, the rest follows. You worry about righteousness and mercy, you will find life, righteousness, and honor, all just from looking for those. A wise man scaleth the city of the mighty, and casteth down the strength of the confidence thereof. Whoso keepeth his mouth and his tongue keepeth his soul from troubles. Don't be like this person here, yelling out. You will get in trouble for that. I don't know that hardly any fight or any contention or any war has started without saying a word first. I'm sure some have, but most of the time he said, she said leads to the fight or the conflict. Proud and haughty scorner is his name, who dealeth in proud wrath. But up here, a wise man scaleth the city of the mighty, and casteth down the strength of confidence thereof. I thought about this. I don't know why, this is the first thing that popped into my head. Let's say there's a huge city, and it's almost like it would just be suicide to attack it. So then you send 1 or 2 guys to sneak in there, and then at night when everybody's asleep, they sneak up onto the ramparts, and they replace their flag with your flag, the enemy flag, and then sneak away. When they wake up, everybody sees those flags, and they're like, who put those up there? Did you put them up there? How'd they get past the guards to put them up there? And now everyone's scared to death. They're like, so the enemy's in here, they've already put up the flags, and they're scared. They don't have confidence anymore. They lost the confidence thereof. And so they're like, well, dang it, all you did was send 2 people in there to change the flags, but now they could be anywhere, and you got everybody all messed up. So this one's saying, a wise man scaleth the city of the mighty, and casteth down the strength of confidence thereof. However, I can't relate that to like a life thing. What's he trying to tell us to do there? I'm sure he's not saying to go scale a city and change a flag or anything. It's just what popped into my head. But maybe look for the easiest thing you can do to cause the greatest effect. Like if I can do this one small thing to help this person, it would have the greatest effect as if I paid their bills for the rest of their life. Like maybe instead of mowing someone's yard and keeping their house cleaned up, I should go and talk to them for 10 or 15 minutes. Maybe they want that more than anything else in the world. It's just older people kind of get lonely and stuff. So maybe talking to them is a lot better than keeping yards mowed and all of these things. I don't know. That one's up. I'm open. I'm all ears for that one. The desire of the slothful killeth him, for his hands refuse to labor. Go with that slothful guy again. He coveteth greedily all day long, but the righteous giveth and spareth not. The sacrifice of the wicked is abomination. There we go with those sacrifices again. How much more when he bringeth it with a wicked mind? Oh, I'm going to bring this sacrifice to God because I have to. I'm going to bring my best sheep because he demands it. That's not the right way to do a sacrifice, even when you are going to do it. So, a false witness shall perish, but the man that heareth speaketh constantly. A wicked man hardeneth his face, but as forth the upright he directeth his way. And there is no wisdom, nor understanding, nor counsel against the Lord. So how many times has Proverbs instructed you, seek counsel first, find wise counsel, be in wise counsel? Well, this one says there is no counsel against the Lord, or there's no wisdom in that counsel against the Lord. You can't fight God. You're not really going to change it. There's no reason sitting around, well, how can we change God's mind? It's just not going to work, right? You can pray and get certain things to happen from God, but as for the ultimate path and for God himself, I don't want to say we're insignificant, but he's got a plan that we can't comprehend yet, and that's why you have to follow God's plan, not our own. And he's even said in this chapter, man's ways are his own. They're not God's. You have to seek that first. The horse is prepared against the day of battle, but safety is of the Lord. You can put on your armor, you can get on your horses, you can do all that, but true safety, you can still die if you go to war, even with all that armor, even with the horses up and ready. But true safety, if you want safety, it's in God, and God alone. That's it, Proverbs 21.
Very good.
I hope I don't sound like a chipmunk. We did last week on Facebook, so there wasn't any videos.